Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. We have a wonderful class in store for you tonight. Tonight is week five of the financial makeover for 2022. 2022 financial makeover. A lot of good stuff we've been covering over the last few weeks, including budgeting, which is one of the key things. You have your income, you see what dollars you're receiving, and you find out um, where they're needed for. You give them an assignment, and then you send them on their way. Meanwhile, you also save for your vacation and for those things you want, those pleasure things. So, welcome tonight. I'm Elder Miles Cox. I'll be teaching you this financial makeover for 2020. Glad to have everybody online. Just begin to comment, begin to share with as many people as that are in your particular groups in different areas, so we can just get into a little bit of understanding and more of the knowledge of this Word of God tonight. So thank you everybody that's watching. So let's start talking about financial principles. Here's the biggest thing we talked about over the past few weeks, and that is budget. Now, budget is people telling their money where to go instead of allowing their money to wander. And that's kind of cliche-ish, but it really means that your money is designed for purpose. Your money is designed to address a purpose. The Bible says that the love of money is the root of all evil, but then it also says that money answers all things. Money answers all things. So we know clearly that money has to provide our food, our clothing, and our shelter. Money has to provide those resources that are necessary for life. Every man earns his living by work. So whether it's you don't have your own business or whether you are actually working for another person, whichever the case may be, your income that you work for, you are entitled to. The Bible speaks of, hello, Kimberly, good evening. The Bible speaks of do not muzzle the ox that tread out the grain. That means, and it also says, laborer is worthy of his hire. Laborer is worthy of his hire. That means if you work, then you are supposed to enjoy the fruits of your labor. You're supposed to be able to buy the things you need to buy. And all we're teaching here in this class, we're teaching responsibility. We're giving you structure. We're giving you examples on how to apply the money that you get so that you won't go from paycheck to paycheck being desolate and not having your resources in order. So you have to make your money behave. Excuse me. And a written plan is the best way to whip your money into shape. The very best way. Your money, you may be a frivolous spender. That's okay. That's part of what this class is about. To draw your attention to the tools that are out there to help you be a better steward over your money. You know, if you belong to a church, I hope you're tithing, because tithing is God's reward system, or I should not say reward, it's more so God's money management system, because in tithing, you give God already what belongs to him. So the 10% or the tithe, as they call it in the Bible, is something that you have that belongs to God. So as you begin to earn money, you begin to understand these things. I would say that tithing is one of the first places that you should practice that discipline. Tithing is 10% of your income. Some places say net, some say gross. In my mind, you know, I tithe off what I actually get, because the other part, the government already gets their tithes. Sometimes they even get 3 times the tithe. So I just normally tithe off of what I get. So I tithe off my my net is what I get. Okay. So here are 9 principles about money that you should know. You should understand this fully, and you should embrace this, because if you've ever been to a homegoing service for someone, they call it a funeral also, you'll understand that normally, unless they're very exotic, people don't take the stuff that they've earned during a lifetime with them. They may have on a suit of clothes or a dress, or maybe not a pair of shoes, maybe a few pieces of jewelry. And the coffin, that's all that they have. Now, that person may have owned a house, several cars, a bank full of money, but you'll realize at that point of departure from the life existence, there's nothing that you're going to be able to take with you. You could be Bill Gates, who is billionaire. He's a billionaire. You could be what's his name, Warren Buffett. Any of these really rich people, Elon Musk. You could be any of these guys, and I'm not talking against them. I'm saying for the fact that if you're one of those guys, I don't care how much money you make, you cannot take any of that with you. So the purpose of these classes are to get you to understand that God really truly owns everything. The Bible says the cattle on 1,000 hills are his, and everything that he has, the gold and the silver. And if you go back to the book of Genesis, in the beginning, as God started to lay the foundation or recreate the world, he actually put a river flowing through there, the great river, the Tigris and the Euphrates River, which are still there today. He put those rivers in place, but he also spoke in the scriptures about there being gold and beryl and different precious stones and other metals there. So God owns everything. He owns everything. You might as well come to that agreement, come to that understanding, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you work. Even God owns your ability to earn money, your ability to work, your life, your health, and your strength. All of that comes from God. If you don't believe that, go to a homegoing service. What you will see there is the remains of a person who, if they could have, they would have continued in life, but they cannot do it because God ultimately owns everything, including you and me. So we should see money as a tool. Why is money a tool? You may ask that question, and I'm glad you asked. Money is a tool because money simply is able to purchase a roof over your head or rent it. Money is able to purchase a car or rent it. Money is able to purchase fuel for your car if your car needs maintenance, if your house needs repairs, if you have a utility bill to pay, etc., etc., etc. From the clothes you wear on the back, it takes money to buy those. You may have gotten it free as a handout from somebody, but if you look back down the line, you will find someone had to pay the price for those items, whether it be shirts, shoes, pants, or whatever. Somebody had to pay the price to bring those items to you or to produce those items for you. So we should worship God with our money. We should really worship God with our money. Now, why do we need to worship God with our money? Well, go back to the first statement that I made. God owns everything. So a tithe, which is 10%, is something that you give God, and it's a recognition, acknowledgement, and an act that says, God, because you own everything, I'm giving you the tithe or the 10% that you require of me. Now, if you want to give more, hey, go for it. If that is what you're able to do, that's a good practice. But if you're not able to do that, at least give the tithe, which already belongs to God. It already belongs to him. Everything belongs to him. So worship with your money by giving God what is owed to him. Now, another way to worship with your money is this. You can worship with your money by providing for others. I knew a lady who was in the military with me years ago. She asked me the question about tithes. She was concerned about tithes. She said, well, I took my tithe and bought something for another individual. And I personally didn't agree with it because the tithe is the Lord. The Bible says that clearly. The tithe is the Lord's. The first fruit is the Lord. The first 10% is the Lord's. In that act, I felt like personally it was an act of charity. Yes, it was, but it was also kind of an act of disobedience because if you're saying it's the tithe and it's supposed to be according to the Bible given to God, then why would you keep the tithe for yourself, or why would you give the tithe to some other purpose? Because it's not what it's designed for. So worship God with your money. And get that money. Get that money. What do you mean get that money? Go after. If you want to earn, go for it. Education helps you in that area. Different businesses, a regular job in that area. All these things can increase the money that you get because, listen, we are intended as mankind, as God's ultimate creation, to get an enjoyment out of the money that we are bringing to our households and the money that we work for. We are supposed to be having a party, having a ball, and and we're supposed to be able to enjoy those things. So get the money, earn the money, set yourself up for success and vacation, and set yourself up for just enjoying the fruits of your labor. But don't forget God. Don't forget the tithe. Don't forget to give God what you owe Him. Be responsible to your responsibilities. Be faithful to them, and also be faithful to yourself. Make sure you take yourself on vacation. There's absolutely nothing wrong with a nice vacation. You're supposed to be able to work, rest, and play, I believe. So, in my philosophy, you work hard as you can, as hard as you're able to. You save your money diligently, and then you enjoy the fruits of your labor. And you also rest because you have to go to work the next day or whatever, and then you also have to live the rest of your life so you don't burn all your energy out. So rest is a part of it, but the key part is make sure you maintain a healthy lifestyle, a balanced lifestyle. You know, what I found out, Kimberly, is that the happiest lifestyle that I have come to understanding in my mature years is balance. Balance has been the thing that has kept me stable, buoyed, B-U-O-Y, as in, the thing that floats on the water. It kept me afloat, I should say. It kept me afloat because I was able to recognize in my maturity and my understanding and the things that were revealed to me how to live my life both enjoyably and also live for the Lord. Because God, He wants us to live out our humanity and enjoy the world and enjoy our life and the beautiful sights that He's given us. But it takes a responsible person to do that. It takes a person who is balanced to do that. You have to not forsake your bills just so you can go on a trip. You know what I'm saying? You don't put yourself in that financial bind. Now, as we spoke last week, you can put yourself in a bind by this, and I gave the example of $2,000 is your income, just hypothetically, right? So you have $2,000 worth of income, and you have, let's say, $1,000 worth of responsibilities, bills, utilities, et cetera, rent, mortgage. This is all hypothetical, and so you squander a part of that money, still having those responsibilities, and now you squander. Let's say you just squander 800 of it. Now you have $1,200 left to pay $1,500 worth of responsibility, and so and that way you get behind, and then the next month comes, and then you have to borrow from the next month to catch up with the last month, and that thing snowballs. I mean, it can move in a snowball effect so fast that you will be unbalanced in your finances, miserable in your life, debt collectors, bill collectors calling you, and you won't be able to really enjoy quality of life, I believe personally, that God has intended for us. But He calls us to be good stewards. Just like He put Adam in the garden and He asked him to cultivate it, right? You're supposed to take care, cultivate, be responsible, a good steward over the resources that God gives you. So fight for contentment. Fight for contentment. This is the fifth principle about money. Fight for contentment. What does that mean? Contentment means you're satisfied with what you have, but you're not complacent, and you're not lazy, but you're satisfied in the extent that right now this is where I am. I may be making $10 an hour, and that's okay. You can desire and aspire to more money, but don't be so discontent with where you're at that you refuse to, you forget to enjoy where you are at that moment, because we all should be working to higher goals. Let's look at it from a natural standpoint. A child that is born is fully dependent on their parents, right? You have to take them everywhere. You have to feed them. You have to clean them. You have to do everything. They're helpless bundles of joy. As the child begins to grow and mature, what you will find out is that child starts to learn. They're curious. They explore things. That child begins to grow more and more. They're more curious. They investigate things. They're curious about things. They ask about things. They get to a certain age, and there's an age that, for me, for my kids, it was around 3. They start to exert their independence. So in the balance of that, you have to allow them to be independent and show them how to be independent to a certain extent, but you don't allow them to harm themselves by taking on more than they are capable of doing. And so that's the analogy that I have when it comes to being in balance in your life and being content. You have to operate where you are and get knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and progress into that higher level where you can then make new accomplishments. But Paul said it. He said, "I found that it's better for me." This I'm paraphrasing. It's better for me to be content in whatever state that I am. I'm able to be content in whatever state I am. So, having lived as a soldier for many years, as you go overseas and you go from, if you're in garrison, we call it, and you have hard structure, nice buildings, nice um, rooms, and they have the toilet available right down at the end of the hall, and you have showers at the other end of the hall, and you just have it set up for your convenience. Now, when you go out in the field environment, whether it be in a foreign country or you're out in training, you have to stay in uncomfortable situations. Now, you can't get so desirous of all that comfort and those soft sheets and stuff like that are in garrison that you grumble and complain while you're out there in the training environment. If you do so, you're going to make yourself miserable because nothing is going to change until the exercise is over, until that portion is over, until you go through that thing. And when that's over, then you can move back to the plushness of your room in the barracks or whatever. And that's just an example to show you that if you're there in an environment, training environment overseas or whatever, we normally sleep on cots and sleep in tents. You just have to be okay. And just giving you a scenario, an example. You just have to be okay with that because it's temporary. You make it work the best for you. When given the opportunity, you progress and you continue to go up and you keep moving. So that is where you fight for the contentment. Be okay with where you are. We've all probably been there, right? You probably seen things that you desire. They were so beautiful. A beautiful car, nice dress, a nice suit, a nice shirt, nice pair of shoes, nice piece of clothing, nice piece of furniture, nice piece of jewelry. Those things that we look at and they almost take our breath like, wow. And then if you're not careful, the desire to get that thing will make you compromise in the area. Like I gave you the example with the money. It can make you compromise in an area where you're not able to get that thing, or you even go out of the way to get that thing, and then you sacrifice your financial balance over here, and then you create an imbalance over here just because there's a greed in your heart of something, that you believe you desire and something that you go after. So, kill greed in your heart. Just kill it. Be content, kill greed, and go after a balanced life, financially balanced in everything that you do. Next point is be mindful of debt. Wow. I say be mindful of debt for a few reasons. First of all, being in debt, you are obligated as a believer to honor that person to whom you have financial connections with and responsibility to. So be mindful of that in that area because you are held accountable for how you deal with your business. Now, there's a verse in the Bible where Jesus talks about, gives an example of the ruler, right, who forgave this guy all of his debt. He begged and begged and begged and begged, and he was forgiven of his debt, right? And so he went out and started approaching those who owed him money. He was vicious and he was nasty about it. He approached them, he was real aggressive about it. And then it turned out that, the way he mistreated them, he had to give an account for. So in that accounting, he was put in jail, he was put in prison. So that scenario, I'm saying this, be mindful of that because you have a responsibility to the people who you go into agreement with to purchase things, to buy things, and to be able to, even whether it's a contract, whether it's a rent or it's a mortgage or a car loan, all of these things are covenants and they're contracts. And so be mindful of that in that aspect. Now, the other aspect to be mindful of that in is to be very mindful $2,000 and $1,500, and then 1,200 of it was squandered. Now you got 800 to apply to $1,500 of responsibility. And when you try to do that, you notice that there's $700 that's going to be left over. And that's going to create a debt because you're going to have to eventually pay that. Now, next month comes, the same $2,000 comes in, the same $1,500 is owed as a normal reoccurring bill, and then on top of that, the extra $700, making it $2,300. Now you're $300 in debt, and that could snowball and carry on if you're not responsible and you do not take care of your responsibilities diligently. Okay, so there's just a few examples of what's going on with the debt process. Also, manage your finances. Good ways to manage your finances: be mindful of what you have coming in. Also, get a second job, or create a business, or get a second source of income. You could also, in managing your finances, be diligent about what comes in and what goes out. I mentioned a few weeks ago, you can get in contact with the bank. You can do it through most apps, or you can, sometimes they have telephone numbers connected to the bank that are connected to your account. And you can check on your balances. You can they'll give you a audible readout of what kind of debits and credits that you've had on your account if you use debit cards specifically, or if you have a credit account, then they will tell you that you spent X number of dollars at this place at this time. You can get all that information. And so the purpose in managing that is to understand exactly where your resources are going. There's nothing worse than money that disappears, except for the fact that you forget money that you spent on something, and it in itself is not disappearing, but that money has been misappropriated, misused, or misplaced, or something like that. So manage your finances. So what is money? Let's go with that. What is money? What is money? If you want to put in comments, someone say, tell me what money is to you. What is money? I'll just pause for a few seconds while you add that in. Now, what is money to you? What is money to you? What is money to you, and what does it mean? What is money? Good evening, Miss Meredith. What is money? I'm asking a question, family. Good evening, good evening. What is money to you? What does money mean to you? I'm giving everybody a few seconds here. A brief, concise example will be great. What is money to you? What is it to you? Absolutely, a medium exchange. You must have my notes. Money is that's exactly it in my notes. Money is a medium of exchange. Now, it's a medium of exchange as it progressed to that, but initially there was a barter system. A barter system means that, hey, if you feel like the value of this cow is worth, you know, two oxen or whatever, because of the workload of the oxen or vice versa, then you would give me your two cows and I would take your horse, the barter system. Or if I wanted a bushel of grain of wheat and you had a bushel of corn, but you didn't grow wheat and you wanted some wheat, then we would make an exchange based on how we placed the value on that particular item that we had. If you felt like one bushel was worth one bushel, then that was an equal exchange. But if you felt like that bushel of wheat was worth more than a bushel of corn, then you would have to ask the person that you were exchanging with, hey, I need a bushel and a half for my wheat because it was very expensive to produce and it's premium wheat, whatever the case may be, just giving you a scenario. So money is a medium of exchange. In short, money is a medium of exchange. It's an agreed upon item you can use to make a purchase. You can trade or pay off a debt. The medium of exchange will differ in many countries. Those of you who are from foreign countries, outside the U.S. territory, I've been overseas, different places. I've dealt with foreigns, which is a Hungarian type money. Every country has its own rate of exchange, and then even when you compare them to other countries. For example, I think at one point, one U.S. dollar was like worth 85 forints or something like that. It means that the value of their money was less. The quantity of their money was less valuable than an equal quantity of our money, and it did not match up. Let's say dollar for dollar, if that was the name of a foreign for dollars in this case. So that means that you would have to, in exchange for me giving you a dollar, you would have to give me $85. Now that is good, and when you look at it at that ratio of 1 to 85, it's really good. But still, if you're purchasing something in the U.S., you will have to get that money converted back to U.S. currency, and it'll still be only a dollar, and it will be financial impact on the things you wanted to buy in that particular country. Vice versa, you have more buying power in the country that had to give you the greatest rate of exchange. So that's kind of how it works. So what is more, the use of money makes it a whole lot easier to get what you need instead of having to swap your pet dog for a box of cereal. That's just a absurd, kind of a reaction or exchange because, do you think a dog is more valuable or equal to the value of a box of cereal? Most people wouldn't. If you have a dog, most of the time you're going to be like, no, cereal for my dog, because if you look at it at the price now, a box of cereal, let's just say it at its highest price is around $4 or $5. And then the dogs, most of the time, with the treatment you put, the purchase price you had for them, and the value you place on them for companionship, and the veterinarian treatment that you've given, and if you haven't spayed or neutered, all that adds to that value of that dog. And so that wouldn't be an even exchange. So a dollar is worth, Stacy says a dollar is worth $145 in Jamaica. Wow. That is amazing. $145. Man. Now that's all good if you take money over to Jamaica and you're there and you make the exchange, but wow, $145. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. That is awesome. So here are a few biblical things that we need to know about money. The Bible verses does not say that money is amoral or without moral. It says that it doesn't lack a moral sense or moral purpose or moral use, but it says the love of money is the root of all evil. And that goes back to one of the other bullets that says, kill greed in your heart. If you have greed in your heart and you desire money to that level that you want to do something illegal, unethical, or immoral to gain it, and there's a problem there in your finances already because you're going to find yourself most likely eventually getting caught in some illegal act. You're going to jail, pay money, pay fines, incarceration, lose your job. All those impacts on your financial bottom line could happen if you undertake things like that. So money doesn't have a life. It cannot act on its own. Now, that's a key. Everybody knows that in essence, but the love of money is right. Money cannot act on its own. That's why a budget, as I said before, a budget is a way to assign your money a purpose as it comes into your household so that you're not tempted to spend it frivolously. So most people don't give it away, but so you just don't waste it. You have to be mindful and respectful of money because money is a very, very powerful factor in life, especially in America and around the world as well, because you look at the exchange rate, one for $145. So, man, that'll be nice. You take a few bucks over there, and then you got quite a bit of money. You take what $10 over there, you got $1,400. I mean, that's crazy, man. That is just crazy. But so you have to tell money what to do. You have to give it an assignment. You have to make sure that there is purpose for that assignment, and that it takes care of that assignment, and that because you're the money handler, you're the one that's moving it around. You got to be disciplined in that. You got to put things, apply them to what the need is, or what they're designed to take care of. So money doesn't have its own life. It cannot act on its own. It cannot do good deeds, and it cannot even commit crimes or do anything evil. I've never seen a dollar bill hold up anything. I've never seen a dollar bill do any crime. It's not. It's inanimate. It can't do anything without the owner's actions. Basically, it's neither good nor bad. No matter how many Bible verses about money there is, money can only do what you tell it to do. It can only be applied to what you apply it to, and it can only be wasted if you waste it. So you are the ultimately one that is responsible. So 1 Timothy 6:10 says, money is not, well, it doesn't say this, but it's the love of money is the root of all evil. It doesn't say that money is the root of all evil. It says in 1 Timothy 6:10, the love of money is the root of all evil. So you have to, however, when you, yeah, stuff is, like I said, stuff is really expensive. And it really is expensive. So you have to be mindful of that too. Now, on that note, there are different, I don't know, everybody's not into coupons. Sometimes it's a prideful thing, they won't do it, but there's this app is called Groupon. You can actually purchase things, and I have some examples here. I'll speak with you later. I'm getting ahead of myself, but um, be wise about your money. Buy things on sale. I shop at Marshalls, TJ Maxx, home goods stores, um, discount stores. I do. And I find that thing, I go through, I take my time, I go through those stores, and they have a lot of hidden gems in there. A lot of times, I find mostly Marshalls, because back home in North Carolina, that's what we have mostly. So you go through Marshalls and you have to flip through a few shirts and a few pair of pants, and you can actually find some name brand stuff that's marked down severely. Still in style, still looking good, brand new, and you can get it for a fraction of the price. In fact, a lot of them will have the actual price. Let's just say it's Nautica, right? It's Nautica, and the shirt may be $22 if Nautica was selling it. You may be able to get it for $9. So there you have a $13 saving right there. So be wise even when you're shopping how you spend your money. And use some of those apps out there are excellent in giving you discounts for different things because they want your business. You can sign up for birthday clubs because people really are wanting your business. They'll give you discounts. Groupon is one app. I don't know any other apps right now, but there's a few apps out there where you could purchase something using Groupon and you get a discount. So I'll cover that a little bit in a few seconds. Now, there are two good reasons why the church talks about money. Two good reasons. First, the reason the church talks about money so much is because God talks about money. Did you know that? God talks about money quite a bit. Here's a statistics to support that. 16 out of 38 of Jesus' parables dealt with money and possessions. Go back and look it up. The red letters that Jesus was talking about when he spoke the Beatitudes, and he spoke all of he spoke about the people that were given the talents, and he spoke over and over again about money and possessions. So 16 out of the 38 parables, that's a little less than half. He talked about money and possessions. Nearly 25% of Jesus' words in the New Testament deal with biblical stewardship. Yeah, dealers, outlets in different places. Matter of fact, there's a outlet, Tangier, I think it's Tangier Outlets in Glendale, right by the 101. I think that's also a good place. They have these discount places all the time, and they have like a Nike store. They have different Skechers stores and different stores where you can go in there, and they only sell those particular items. So there's not a lot of competition as if someone would compete at the major mall or whatever and have to pay for their overhead and all those charges. So you can get a lot of those things a lot cheaper. Thank you for that. Thank you. So 25% of Jesus' words in the New Testament dealt with biblical stewardship. I mentioned the servants that were given the talents, and then they were asked at the end of the master's return, what did you do with my talents? So that's an example of stewardship, and that's really when we talk about finances. We talk about even we're not talking about health right now. When you talk about health, your own body, there's a stewardship that you owe to the things that you have. You've been given a body, given a life. You're supposed to be good stewards over those things and money and other resources. So 1 out of 10 verses in the Gospels deal with money. Imagine that, 1 out of 10. No, 1 out of every 10 deals with money, in some way. Here's another example. Jesus asked Peter, as he showed him the coin, whose face is on it, right? He says, Caesar. He said, render to Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God's. So then he sent Peter down to look in the water and find the fish and get money out of the fish's mouth so they could pay their responsible tribute to Caesar. So that's an example of, even in the confines of society, even as we go about our day-to-day life, we owe a service to God through obedience to the local laws of mankind. Paying taxes, paying your bills, doing things decently in order, and being accountable, and being a very good steward. So there are more than 2,000 scriptures on tithing in the Bible. 2,000 scriptures. And people often say the church talks about money way too much. I've heard it before. It talks about money and possessions. And it talks about, wow, that's just 2,000 scriptures about those things. Is twice as many scriptures as there is on faith and prayer combined. Wow. 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 Many verses in the Bible talk about money, and for a good reason, too, which leads to the next point. The second Bible verse about money are frequently used because there is a direct correlation between the way we handle our money and our faith. The way we handle our money and faith. When it comes to money, we will either worship wealth or worship with our wealth. Wow. You will either worship wealth, have a desire, right? Have a greed, and you'll worship money. You'll want money so bad you will do anything to get it. And then, if I feel like this too, there's never enough money, and I don't mean that from a greed standpoint. I would say the more I have, the more I could use, because I try to be a good steward over what I have, and it prevents and makes life a lot more comfortable from the standpoint that you're able to do more things, whether it be you'll be able to tithe more, you'll be able to travel for yourself more, you even have enough to give away. Recently, my niece lost one of her husbands. Lost one of her husbands, lost her husband, and I was in a position to help her because she reached out to me, and there was some finance and resources lacking, and so because God had given me stewardship and developed stewardship in me over the years, I was able to support a family member in that time of crisis, and it felt good because the loved ones you have, your family members, they're your blood, and so my passion is I want to help them if I can. And it doesn't necessarily have to be family members, but I want to be able to help them. So I was able to bless them in that part. But because God has given me wisdom and been giving me education, understanding, and finances, I've been able to do those things. So finances are based on the Bible. In Genesis 1:26 through 28, we observe that the concept of stewardship is woven into the fabric of creation. The desire to steward has been hardwired up, into the soul of every person, which explains why, in varying degrees, people have a desire to create and manage. What was the first responsibility that God gave to Adam? When he put him in the garden, he told him to cultivate it, right? That speaks to stewardship, that speaks to responsibility, and that speaks to taking good care of something that belongs to someone else, and which in this case is God. So here are a few biblical examples, great biblical examples, I believe, of stewardship. Adam was called to work, as I mentioned before. From the very beginning, God had good intentions for work. In Genesis 2:15, we read, the Lord God took the man and put him in the garden to work it and to keep it. God called Adam to work and to keep the garden. Basically, God commanded Adam to take care of things on his behalf. That's the delegation thing that God does for us. He gives us something, he puts us in a position, and he asks us, just take care of it. And we shouldn't be like the wicked servants, like, okay, God, you put me in this position, you've given me this, and now I take it for granted. And then when God comes back and looks for the fruit that he put in you, or the ability that he's put in you, you just sit on it. You do nothing with it. And the money and the responsibilities and the blessing, you squander them. So God called Adam, God's call of Adam to labor like that and to work like that was not a burden. And God isn't a vindictive taskmaster. Since Adam's call to work preceded the entrance of sin, we can see that God had a good purpose for the work in mind. In the words of Randy Alcom, work was part of the original garden. It was part of the perfect human life. So work is always there. God made Adam a manager and a steward. Yes, he did, Miss Banks. Welcome, 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 everybody. He did. He put Adam in charge and made him a steward and told him exactly what to do. Also, we have another example, Joseph. Joseph was an overseer of Potiphar's house. You know the struggles he went through. You know he was in prison a couple of times. But look at the beauty of it. Let's break this down. He didn't own any of the furniture in the house. He didn't own anything. It doesn't even say he owned anything. And I believe the scriptures, he left behind that coat of many colors because that was the coat that they took to his father with blood on it. So he didn't have his special coat. So he didn't own anything in the house. He didn't own the furnishings. He wasn't responsible for generating income. They didn't ask Joseph to go out and do physical labor or go out and make money. He didn't own and wasn't responsible for anything at that point initially, right? But he was given stewardship over the house and everything his master owned. Now look at that. He didn't have any personal stake in anything that he had, but look how God prospered him and put him in a position to bless his whole family. Refer back to the biblical steward definition, the manager of a household. That's what Joseph was. That's what he was. He was a manager. And he took great care, and you see how it turns out. Even in the management, look at this. God gave him godly counsel and godly wisdom through the dream and the revelation that he knew, and he was wise enough and smart enough to understand that there's going to be 7 years of plenty, and right behind that is going to be 7 years of famine. Now, stewardship, we're still talking about that. If there's no stewardship that's initiated from that dream, which was inspired by God and given him as a forewarning, if there was no stewardship for those first 7 years, you ate and consumed everything that came in, then those 7 years of famine would have taken a famine would have taken a lot of people out. It would have taken a lot of people out. No food in the land. So we all would have been taken out. They would have starved likely. Moses is another example. Moses' thing was see, God began to implement with Moses giving the land a break. And I know this from being from the rural part of North Carolina. And what I learned in that was that the farmers, right, they would plant crops, harvest crops year after year. And now the Bible makes mention that in the 7th year, the land is supposed to rest. Now, isn't that amazing? You got to give the land a rest like we give our bodies a rest on the 7th day. In the 7th year, the land is supposed to rest. So Moses did that. Moses was a good manager over there. He understood that. And I don't know the real reason for that. I don't know the agricultural, I think it has something to do with the depletion of the soil, but don't quote me on that, but I don't know for sure. That's just logical to me that, okay, you let the soil rest. That means it has a chance to absorb rain. The crops aren't drawing the nutrients out of it. It's not being tilled and everything. It's able to, get kind of covering over it, and it doesn't get bleached out by the sun, et cetera, et cetera. So I believe that's what happened in the course of the letting the land rest. So remember, Christ owns everything. As the owner of everything, he makes his desires for his creation known. We see just one example of this in Leviticus 25, 1 through 5. In this passage, the Lord tells Moses to let the people farm the land for 6 years, but to make them take a break from farming the ground in the 7th year. What does this have to do with stewardship? It's very simple. From this passage, we see that Christ owns the earth. He oversees the growth of produce, and he knows how to handle the land. He knows what the land will yield. He knows what the land needs. He knows and understands even the soil. Man, look how wonderful our Father is, our Savior is. He understands everything about that. And so, in his wisdom, he tells Moses, hey, just don't let them farm in the 7th year, let the land rest. So, that's what Moses does. So, who's the Lord of your life? That's a question, a rhetorical question. If you want to answer, you may. Who is the Lord of your life? Who is the one you say you're responsible to? Do you desire for the Lord to be that steward, that Lord over your life, that ultimate person that decides what's going to happen? Do you desire that? Do you long to read the Bible, understand what God is saying, understand what it means to you? You know, I was talking today to a friend of mine. I was talking about. I talked to this young man in my military unit about. I don't know, probably about 10 years ago now, right? And so I was witnessing to him, just having a conversation about God. And the thing he says to me, he says, I don't believe the Bible because it was written by a man. And that struck me as really, really strange. Why? Because every magazine, every textbook, every article, brochures, what is the other form of written media? Books, everything that is produced in written media form is produced by somebody. Because you're looking at it as a copyright, it has an author, and it has a publisher and all of that stuff. So when you tell me that you can't get with the Bible, you can't follow the Bible because a man wrote that thing, that doesn't even make sense because a man has written every textbook and every book we read. Maybe not written and handwritten per se, but contributed to the publishing of it. And there's somebody's word somewhere along the line that have been put into written or readable form. So, do you want to participate in the life of a local church? Do you work as if you were working for the Lord? Now, those things go closely together because, like everybody here, Pastor, we love you. We all love our pastor, but, I work for Pastor. Hey, sis, I love you. I work for God and I work with my pastors. The Bible says that we are co-laborers with Christ. So I co-labor with Christ, I co-labor with my Father, and I co-labor with the pastors in this church and the elders and whoever else, because I look at it like this. I'm working as unto the Lord. God is the one that's going to reward me. God is the one that's going to see my faithfulness. God is going to be the one that recognizes that my heart is postured towards him so that, I can be faithful and obedient to him. And listen, if I help another man cultivate his crops, whether it be church or business or whatever, then I know God is in a position to bless me for that. I have no doubt about that. So, do your work as unto the Lord? That's a question that you can answer. Just put it in the comments. All right. So in getting all your stewardship and all your things together, balancing your finances, if you have to, in order to get everything in order, delay your gratification. What are you talking about, Elder? Delay your gratification. The trip that you were going to take, that you had set aside $1,000 for, and now you have an emergency that requires $1,000 that could turn into $1,500 or $2,000. Take care of that emergency, and then rebuild for that trip or whatever that expense, whatever that gratification is. But don't let your gratification or your desire to spend money on personal pleasures go ahead of your personal responsibilities. And regardless of what you have to do, whether it's a huge task, something that seems impossible, take one step at a time. With financial matters and getting accustomed to handling money if you never were, and there's no embarrassment if you never were. I grew up poor. I learned on the fly. I watched guys. I worked with guys. They talked about money, talked about investment, talked about part-time jobs, and my ears would perk up. Sorry, my ears would perk up. My ears would perk up, and I'm like, okay, because there was no one around in my circle to talk about this stuff. And so along the way, I was able to be exposed to a lot of these things and understand these things and put these things into practice. And so by doing so, it gave me a little financial wisdom. The pastors here teach great financial courses. They taught a lot of stuff a couple of weeks ago. We had even a financial workshop that they were talking about real estate and 10 ways to purchase a house. So much good information that as you use it and apply it, it can truly bless you. It can really, really bless your life. So thank you for everyone that's joining. Thank you to my beautiful sister all the way from Maryland, all of those here local, my fellow elders in the gospel. Miss Kimberly Perry, thank you for joining us for the moment you joined us. I appreciate it. And listen, guys, let's do this thing. Let's take this stuff. And if you guys are better out there, hey, with finances, you already heard all this stuff. Hey, all well and good. There'll be something along the way, I'm sure, that's going to be helpful to you. But whatever the case may be, we are endeavoring in 2020 to have a financial makeover. 2022 to have the best financial makeover that we can. Use coupons, and there's no shame in it. Shop at discount stores if you need to. Um, Make sandwiches if you need to. Or however you can do to impact your bottom line, because every wise decision you make on this end is going to give you that level of comfort and confidence in your finances on the next end. So until next week, next Wednesday, same time, 6 p.m., we're going to have financial makeover for 2022, part number 6. And I will see you guys next week. God bless you.